Well, a lot of times the children's stories are for the adults about as much as they are for the children. So anyway, it's not wintertime, but we still remember it because it comes every year. And, as the snow comes, it's a beautiful thing. And sometimes you'll stick your hand out when the snow has those great big snowflakes, and you'll catch a snowflake and you'll look at it, and you'll see the beautiful design of the snowflake, and they're all different. They're all different. And you also notice that a snowflake is really so light. It just really doesn't seem to have any weight. But snowflakes can do all different kinds of things. These are some trees in our yard, and you notice they're nice and straight and tall. The next one. And they're nice and tall, and it makes them a beautiful tree. But things can happen. And here is a smaller tree that I've watched for a couple years, and every year it leans over a little bit more. And then here's another tree these have been leaning over for several years now. And then this guy we've been there at that place for 25 years. And this guy every year leans over a little bit more, and sometime it's going to come down. So it doesn't matter if it is a little tree or a big tree. And I want to put together that snowflake stuff with these leaning trees, because it doesn't matter if you're young, doesn't matter if you're old. When you are doing something that you shouldn't be doing, it's going to affect you. And then next thing you know, here comes along another temptation. It's not that big a deal. It's kind of like that little snowflake that doesn't weigh a thing. And you fall for that one too. And every time you fall a little bit farther. And over time, just like those trees, like I said, it applies to adults as well as it does to children. Little trees, big trees. Sooner or later, that's going to take you down. Just like the snow takes those trees down. It doesn't happen overnight. There's a saying that dirty water, trees, they can all grow in dirty water, but it doesn't have to affect you. It's the same thing with snow. If you're standing up straight, if you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, all that snow can fall on you, and it's not going to change a thing. But if you start leaning just a little bit, and you make compromises, and more compromises, and more compromises, before you know, you've lost the battle. And that's a pine tree, so it's worthless anyway. But those other trees were Doug fir trees. Well, the first one was a pine tree. Doug fir trees are good for lumber, good for firewood, but when they're leaning over like that, they're never going to grow big, they're never going to grow strong, they're never going to be worth anything except cut up and burn. And we just need to remember every day when we are making decisions, we may think it's not a big deal, but over time, it will make a difference. So let's make sure we're making the right decisions every day. We can stand straight and tall for Jesus, always, whether we're young or old.